The book. Let me tell you about the book. This book was a project I did in college. It was an open project. The brief was just entitled the book project, and we were to make a book as students. So in my work at the time, I had dedicated a lot of my work to my twin. You know, the death of my twin I didn't really deal with, and I was dealing with the whole idea of losing my twin in my work. We're encouraged in Dunleary College of Art to not to be afraid of subjects, not to be afraid to express our ideas, and it doesn't matter how personal they are, it's all valid art. So we were encouraged to reveal deeply personal feelings in college for the sake of marks. It's ridiculous when I look back at it now, that all of this work that we put in was for the sake of getting a pat on the back by a tutor to say, yeah, very well done, you have enough marks now to get into next year. And you're revealing your soul. You wear your heart on the sleeve. Well, I did anyway. A lot of other students are probably a bit more shrewd, and they talk about political things, and these are like the middle class educated people. Well, I wasn't one of them. I was very naive in college. So anyway, I dedicated this book to Glenn. Now Glenn, when he was 19, he hung himself, unfortunately. I think he was very confused because he woke up too soon, and he was surrounded by corruption in the world, and he just didn't stand a chance, and it was inevitable that he would lose his life to what some people would call insanity, some people would call, you know, depression, delusion, whatever you want to call it. He ended up committing suicide by hanging himself, and the book was all centered around that idea. So I was using the idea of ropes, and I connected it to the idea of going on a voyage, you see. Like a mariner's voyage, the people who go on voyages use ropes. They're mariners, they sail ships. So I came to the idea that I would do knots, like sailors' knots, to illustrate a journey. Now what this says, I mean, it's even badly spelled. This is how naive and stupid I was in school. I wasn't very academic, so there's a lot of bad spelling in this, which I was mocked for in college. A lot of people love the idea of jumping on the chance to say how stupid I am about being a bad speller, and nothing mattered to them. So this is what it says. This book was produced in response to the growing demand from those who seek wanderlust. As a student of this book, you will soon appreciate that it will take a lifetime to master the more elaborate forms of knots found here, and will be achieved only through dedicated practice. But you must remember, in the face of your daunting journey, that often the simplest knot can be utilized and applied to the most daring and unexpected situations, and it is my promise to you that each one found within is guaranteed to serve in aid of your advancement. I can only advise you now to begin on page 1, as this is the best step to start upon, and from there, in your use of my knowledge, I wish you the greatest insights upon your travels. And it says at the bottom, I was inspired to write this. I didn't really understand it at the time. Beside you in spirit, and it just says the author. That's it. It was a kind of, looking back on it, it was a mysterious thing for me to write. So it's the idea of using knots in certain situations, unexpected situations, and it refers to using very simple knots to solve problems. And basically it's a reference to the idea that this situation come up in Glenn's life, where he just tied a simple knot to solve the problem, and that was the end of it. And he advanced on a journey. It ended one journey and began another, I suppose. Some people talk about the afterlife. When I was making this, I didn't believe in God. I was just a kid off the street, and nobody brought me up to believe in anything really. I never questioned the idea of God, and I never really believed. But I did not believe either. I wouldn't speak against him when I was young. I just didn't like the idea, because all of these Christians say they were saying, you know, people who commit suicide go to hell. Well, I just didn't want to be near that. So I didn't want to know from Christians, and I didn't want to know about God, you know. But I was quickly woken up in college through all this work. I found God, absolutely. So it's a mysterious thing that I wrote this. It was like something was coming through me. It wasn't me. I was speaking in third person, like I was somebody else, and just beside you in spirit, the author. I didn't believe in spiritual things. So the idea was to draw these knots, and I got as many knots as I could on the internet, and I was looking at a few of them, and some of them were really strikingly significant to the story. Like on page 1, it's like the year 1, when you're born. He was 1 year old, and you have this knot that it's a real knot. It's called a man harness knot, and it looks like this. Roughly looks like this. So it looks like, you know, male genitalia. It looks like the symbol for a man, and you have a reference to a man there, a man harness knot. So it's the birth of a boy. So it's a reference to Glenn on his first year of life, and it goes through. I was told it was very delicately and beautifully made, which it was a compliment, I suppose. So I was glad of my work. But the pages go on and on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all. They have all these different knots. Now I was slowly waking up at the time. I didn't crack up yet. I did later on. But when I was making this book, I was slowly tuning into certain coincidences that just the coincidences, they came and they just snowballed. They just start to come unrelenting, one after one. So there was a couple of coincidences that I felt they were a little bit strange coincidences, but I didn't put too much pressure on them, you know. There's one like there's one not in here. I put them in certain places because they had significance to Glenn's life. Like the cat's paw. You know, Glenn loved cats. He just did. He just loved cats. So when I look at the cat's paw and think about Glenn's life, and I look at the knot here, that's, you know, it's a strong memory. So I was doing all this. I was writing all these words, what I'm talking about here, in proposals, and all these tutors were reading exactly what was in my, not just on my mind, but in my heart, deep down in my heart. I'll tell you what happened later on. So there were some nice knots, you know, they were nice little illustrations. But it's very sad that, you know, there's like an undercurrent of really deep sadness in it that I was trying to get to. It was like an irony, in ironically presenting this lamentation. That seems like it's a metaphor. It seems to be talking about one thing, like a journey with knots, but it's actually about suicide. So as you go through the book, the knots get more elaborate. It started off with simple knots, and the more you turn the pages, the more difficult the knots are. And it's the same idea in life, that the more you live, the more experience you gain, the more complicated life gets as you grow older, and the more difficult life is. So this one, I came across this knot, this Fisherman's Bend. Now Fisherman, it's a huge reference to Jesus, but I didn't know it at the time. So I had the words fisherman in front of me, and it was like I was just about to wake up to Christ, and I used this knot in particular. I don't know why. I was trying to make a really, really elaborate knot for the last knot, like a really complicated thing, and it's an expression of what was going on in Glenn's life and in Glenn's mind. That his problems must have seemed so complicated that they could never be fixed. So I used this knot and I mirrored it. So the Fisherman's Bend goes on, where are we on, 16. The bow tie. If you think about the bow tie, I'm going to run out of tape here, I'll get back to you. But this idea, the bow tie, hugely significant. You know, when you're 17, your hormones kick in, and that's when you're in danger of putting a knot around your neck, like a bow tie. 18. We're getting to 18 now. This is the Fisherman's bend mirrored. So I joined the two together, and I actually called it the Devil's Turn. Now I was using language that I didn't believe in. The devil to me was just some stupid idea. It was just a reference to nothing in particular. But it was the idea that the devil had a turn with him. He was aged 18, and the devil was about to have his turn. He was going to have his way with Glenn, and it was a really difficult, complicated time in his life. But I realised that when I mirrored the knots together, I got the shape of a ram's head, and the way I named it, if you turn it upside down, literally turn it, the devil's turn, you get the shape of a man. It was a very, very strange thing that happened. And I think, looking back on it, when you speak of the devil, he will appear. So, that was that one. And then, of course, this is an actual knot. I didn't make this knot up. At 19 years old, Glenn hung himself with a very simple knot around his neck. And guess what the name of the knot is? It's actually called the bow line. Bow, the word bow, that's a nickname we had for Glenn. Glenn we called Glenn Bow, or Bow, B-O-W. So it was another coincidence that I couldn't escape. So I'll do another video telling you what happened after I made this book and presented it in college. And I think it's a travesty what happened. It was something that contributed to my nervous breakdown in college, and there's certain things that I will never forgive because of this. It's interesting that in the Bible there is reference to a little book that the angel lifts up, that when you swallow it, it seems pleasant. It seems like a pleasant thing, but when you swallow it, when you take it in and understand what the book is, it turns bitter. Now this is a fluffy, it's like a fluffy, nice little artwork, and it seems to be a naive, what's the word? Melancholy idea of going on a journey, but it's actually about suicide when you realise at the end what it's about. So it seems like a sweet story, but it turns to bitterness in the end, and it's in the scriptures, and it's a very important thing. And the authorities want me to keep my mouth shut about it. They don't want me to claim anything about anything. They want me to shut up, and I'm being gang stalked and quarantined because of all this. So I'll do a video with a few other things in it. I'll talk to you about the girl and how this was dealt with in college, and what happened to me among my peers and colleagues who were witnessing all this coming out of my heart. I didn't realise what it meant at the time. I understand now, and so there. That's the little book. So that's the little book on the white stone. There you go. And isn't it interesting that there's a man called Joseph Smith who he was said to be a prophet who founded the Mormon religion. Some people say it's not a religion at all, but he had an egg-shaped brown stone. If you look that up on the internet, and he used to put it in his hat. So that's a strange coincidence. There it is. So now, am I boring you? So, that's it. I'll probably get robbed now. The gang stalkers will probably break into my place and take all.